back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a review on The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This review will be spoiler free, so if you have not read this book, please stick around so that you can hear my thoughts, because I promise I will not spoil you. I ended up giving this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. So basically this book is about, I believe he's 18, an 18-year-old boy named Monty, and he is about to go on his grand tour, which is basically their version of backpacking through Europe before he settles down and works for his father on their estate. I believe his father is a lord. Now through this backpacking trip, he is going with his best friend Percy, who he is secretly in love with, but plans change when he ends up getting a chaperone that his father sends with them, and his sister Felicity ends up joining the trip. I recommend just knowing that pretty much. Just know that synopsis and go into this book with nothing else, because the turn of events that happen in this story is just so surprising, unpredictable. I had no idea where this story was going to go, because it is, it's rather chunky of a book, and so I was like, man, what is going to happen in these 500 plus pages? 500? Yeah, 501 pages. What's going to happen? And boy, oh boy, a lot happens. And as I said, I loved it. The romance is cute, the writing style is amazing, the plot, basically I really enjoyed this book. I have my notes so that this review is somewhat cohesive. This is a young adult historical fiction with a little bit of romance. What I love the most are the characters. Now, with Monty in particular, he is so sassy and witty. He's also really snarky and sarcastic and narcissistic, but at the same time, he's really caring as well. He has a gambling problem and a drinking problem, which really adds to just like the chaos that happens on this trip. But he has such great character development from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. I really enjoyed his character. He was definitely one of my favorite characters in this book. We follow him in first person, so we really get to see his thoughts, and I think that's what I loved so much about this book, and I loved so much about Monty, is the fact that it is in first person. So I feel like if it was in third person, we wouldn't get as much of the caring aspect of his personality, because we would just be like hearing his dialogue, which, as I mentioned, it's really snarky, it's very narcissistic, sassy, witty. He tends to really care about himself, but through his thought process, he really cares about everybody else. Like, he cares so much for his best friend Percy, but I feel like you wouldn't see it as much if you were just following it in third person. But since we're following his thoughts, we know how much he loves and cares for him. So that just really added so much depth to Monty's character, and I loved him. Next, let's move on to Felicity. I loved Felicity. Felicity has a little bit less character development, just because all in all, her character, she's just such a great character. She's very clever. She's also sassy and witty, but she's also very level-headed, and she really thinks before she acts, and she's just so smart, and she's kind of the one to really get them out of like the sticky situations they get into. So her character's pretty much like, she has some development, but because she just starts off as such a strong character, she has less character development, if that makes any sense. We don't have as much like character building from Felicity and from Percy. Percy, I feel, lacks the most character building, like understanding kind of his thoughts and everything. I feel like Monty's just very well flushed out as a character. Felicity, like I said, we don't get as much from her, but we still get a really great sense of her character and how she is, and how she acts and stuff like that. Percy, not so much. I'd love to see more from him. All in all, I really did enjoy Percy's character. I feel like he complemented Monty very well, and he really added a fun dynamic to the group. As I mentioned, I really love the writing style. I was hooked from the beginning. Like, I read page 1 and I was just so hooked, and I found myself smiling, and at times I kind of found myself like laughing out loud a little bit. I enjoyed this book so much. I also really enjoyed the pacing. As I mentioned, this is a pretty, 500 pages is it's a little chunky, so you have to really put action, and you can't drag out the story too long in a 500-page book, otherwise you're gonna get kind of bored. No, there's a lot that happens, there's a lot of action. You're not gonna get bored reading this book. Like right away, things happen, and you wanna know more, and you wanna know what's gonna happen, and it's so good. I love the pacing. I felt like the pacing was really good. It was a little bit fast at times. I would say it was more fast than slow. Also, can we take a moment and just look at the cover? I absolutely love this cover. I'm not huge on like main characters on the cover, but like this cover is beautiful, and I love it. I feel like it really works for this story, and love the spine. Okay, so let's talk about the setting. I really enjoyed the setting of this book. As I mentioned, it is historical fiction. It's set in the 1700s in Europe, and we get to travel between different countries in Europe, and it's really quite fascinating. There's also a map in the book of like all the places they go on their trip. So as I said, I feel like the setting is very well done, especially with like how they dress, the dialogue, like the mannerisms between like men and women, and like what women are expected to do and like what men are expected to do. For example, Felicity, she's really big into reading, and her dad really gets on to her about reading, and like that's not what women should be doing and stuff like that. So honestly, I don't really have anything bad to say about this book. Like I usually try to have like pros and cons. I guess, like I said, maybe the only con is that I wish we had a little bit more character development from Percy and a little bit more from Felicity. I highly recommend it if you do enjoy those types of historical fiction, hilarious, cute romance. It also has a really great representation of LGBTQ+. It was just such a fun read, and I cannot wait for the next one. So that is pretty much it for this review. Let me know if you've read it, and let me know your thoughts on it. Just no spoilers, please. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I will see you next time in another video. Bye!